In my opinion, throwing knives is one of the most funnest playstyles in Cyberpunk, but it can also be very strong. So in this video, I'll be showing you the best throwing knife build in the game, as long as cyberware, weapons, and how to exactly play this playstyle. Anyways, your time is valuable, so let's not waste it. Let's get straight to it. Alright, let's start off with the base of your build, the attributes and perks. The number one thing you should be doing is getting 20 cool. I feel like it's pretty self-explanatory, but you cannot get the maximum output from this build without 20 cool. Now, I'm not going to go through every single perk, and of course, your perks will change based on your playstyle. My build is more aggressive, action-packed, flying, jumping, dashing around type of build. But if you prefer staying back, staying hidden behind cover, then of course your perks will be different. Obviously, you want the complete throwing knife perk tree, so the whole perk tree on the right. And in the middle, a perk to look out for is creeping death, but that only applies if you're using optical camo, which I'll go through later on in the cyberware section. The same thing goes for style over substance, which affects your playstyle, which I'll go over when I talk to you about how to play this build. Now that you have 20 cool, the rest of the attributes are kind of based on your own personal preference. But again, I'm going to show you what I did for this build, and I'm going to give explanations as to why. So next up, reflexes. I have 20 reflexes. Like I mentioned earlier, this build is more aggressive and action-packed, so you want all the mobility options you can get. Plus, I quite literally cannot live without dash and air dash. Oh my god, once you get it, you can't switch back. The only thing you need from the reflex perk tree is the whole middle tree, all the mobility options. I also got stun shock, but that's just for quality of life reasons. Now, if you want to do a hybrid blades, katana, throwing knife build, then of course reflexes would also be important. But this video is focusing mainly on just throwing knives. That's the start of the show here. Next, technical ability, which I also have 20 in. Also, by the way, quick disclaimer, I have Phantom Liberty, so I have 10 extra attribute points. So unfortunately, if you don't have Phantom Liberty, you're gonna miss out on 10 points, which does suck, but you know. Anyways, on every single one of my builds, I always have 20 technical ability. I cannot live without the Edge Runner perk. Oh my god. Just the ability to have more cyberware capacity, even if you're sacrificing health, is such a huge advantage. Get most of the middle perk tree, the star ones being Renaissance Punk, Extended Warranty, and Cyborg. Also, focus heavy on the left perk tree. I didn't put much focus into grenades, but I did put a lot of focus into our health items. So make sure you get all the perks that help with our healing items, such as extra charges or extra regen rate. And last but not least, body. I only have 18 into body because I ran out of attribute points. Personally, I think it should be between body and reflexes. Either give body 20 or give reflexes 20 and the other one gets 18. But for body, I just focused on the middle tree and I got all the regen rate perks. And intelligence, don't put anything into intelligence. Also, again, if you have Phantom Liberty, make sure you get all the relic points. I plan on making a video where I do the locations of all the places where you can get relic points. But these 4 perks right here are the only ones that mainly kind of affect this build, but just make sure you get everything. Alright, now we move on to the fun part and the most subjective part of the video, the cyberware. Also, if you do have any genuine recommendations on how to improve the build, leave comments below so other people can see it and hopefully improve their build as well. Alright, time to get into the juicy part now. Alright, so starting off with our operating system, of course, Sandevistan is king. And more specifically, David's Apogee Sandevistan, the man himself. Plus, with our perks and technical ability and some other pieces of cyberware, this cooldown will be cut down even shorter. Alright, for the face, I just get the highest tier of eyes you have. There is another option if you're willing to go that way though. The Kuroshi Cockatrice optics is actually not a bad pick. 2 problems though. 1, it's pretty expensive, and 2, style over substance already gives us guaranteed crit hits, so we don't need any more crit. But if you're using other weapons or other guns, then it's not a bad choice. Anyways, for hands, just get the cheapest thing you want. We just want to fill up all of our cyberware slots so we get that extra 15% reduced cooldown from Cyborg. Alright, in our circulatory system, we have heal on kill, biomonitor because I'm too lazy to like heal myself, and blood pump, which again links back to our perk in body. For legs, I mean, what else other than reinforced tendons? Who actually uses the other legs in the game? It's funny because I was literally gonna make a video about how like no one uses the other leg cyberware in the game. So alright, frontal cortex, of course we have axolotl. This thing is like the king of cyberware, bro. I think every single build should have axolotl if you have it, of course. Anyway, self ice for extra protection and mechatronic core for some extra damage. Now for arms, again, it's totally subjective. basically just use what you want to use. If you like play the story or like exploring a lot, I really recommend gorilla arms. I think it's just the best general use arm in the game, especially because it helps with opening doors and stuff if you don't have like the body requirement. Alright, now moving on to skeleton, I think epimorphic skeleton is a must. Now the rest of skeleton is kind of contentious. I'm not gonna lie to you, I didn't like, there was no clear like winners for me. I did kind of have to debate. I didn't really exactly know what to pick, so this part, just honestly pick whatever you want, I'm not gonna lie. Also, in case you were wondering, I tested it out. Dense marrow does not actually give you more throwing knife damage, so don't get dense marrow if you're just going strictly throwing knives. But I've gotten spring joints, which gives us 19% mitigation, which actually gets us close to 80%, and bionic joints because it's cheap and you know, it's just armor. For nervous system, I got reflex tuner. Okay, for some reason I have stabber, which gives you crit chance, but again, style over substance gives you guaranteed crit, so this is also kind of useless. Let me change it out real quick. Okay, for the same price as Stabber, I got Kerenzikov, which is actually very good now that I think about it. Because again, if you want to get those guaranteed crit chances, you want to be, for example, dashing and throwing your knife. And if you dash while like aiming in, Kerenzikov will activate, which actually makes it easier to do damage. So, and finally, I have Neofiber. Again, mitigation is just pretty useful to have. Alright, finally, in tegumentary system, I have chitin. I feel like this is kind of underrated. I never ever hear people talking about chitin, but I know it's pretty expensive, but 200 armor and plus 10% health regenerate per attribute point. Even if we only have 18 body, 180% more health regen is crazy. One thing I will say is shock and all can be pretty annoying, especially like if you're near civilians and it goes off, you'll just kill civilians by accident and then get the NCPD on you, which does suck, but it's worth it. And finally, optical camo. Even if you don't like to play like super stealthy and just hide all the time, I think entering combat with optical camo, getting a bunch of free kills because you get like extra damage with it, and then fighting normally is pretty good. Alright, now we have weapons. Honestly, a lot of the throwing knives in the game are really good, so don't be shy of using something just because I didn't mention it in this list. Now, with that being said, here are a bunch of knives that I personally recommend. So a Gao is probably my personal favorite knife in the game, and it can be found right here. Just really strong weapon that like chain lightning affects a bunch of enemies at the same time, pretty strong. Next, the Claw X Mod 2, which is found on top of the Heavy Hearts Club. This is a good choice if you want like a good iconic weapon that also has mod slots in it. And for the final of the Phantom Liberty knives, Fang is also a really good option. And the way you get this knife is through certain choices in the Phantom Liberty storyline. I don't want to spoil it if you haven't like played it yet, so just search it up yourself. Anyways, for the base game, there's also a lot of really good knives. Headhunter is a really good knife if you're also using a gun at the same time. So when you throw it onto someone, they get marked with a headhunter, and if you then shoot them in the head, it does 200% extra damage. This one can be purchased from the melee weapon vendor in Pacifica at West Wind Estates. Now, probably the best base game knife is definitely Blue Fang. When you throw this onto an enemy, it stuns them. This is basically just guaranteed kills. In order to get this knife, you have to buy it from the melee weapon vendor out in Jackson Plains in the Badlands. Alright, so you have attributes, you have perks, you have cyberware, you have weapons. But how do you actually play with this build? Firstly, you have to keep the perk style over substance in mind. Personally, I would just use Kerenzikov paired up with dashing to make it as easy as possible to get a bunch of guaranteed crits. Also, when using your Apogee Sandevisand, please make sure to not always have it turned on. Turn it on when fighting, but you should get into the habit of switching it on and off to save as much charge as possible. If you're going to constantly be on Sandevisand timing, make sure you get enough kills to offset that cooldown then. Also, please use mobility to your advantage. Don't just walk and just stand still. I want you to dash, jump, air dash. Keep in mind that during an air dash, you have extra mitigation chance as well. This build is all about aggression with a little bit of finesse to it. Throw the knife, take the knife, throw the knife, take the knife, run around, run behind, do finishes, do anything you want. But most importantly, make sure you have fun with the game. Anyways, that's it from me. Let me know if you liked this video, let me know if it was helpful, and let me know what build you want me to cover next. Like, subscribe, follow my Instagram, do all the YouTube stuff. Goodbye.